Welcome back to another video today, basically pointing out to everybody the obvious. We have an election coming on in just about a year, and looking out into the forecast, we can really see some turbulent times, and this has everything to do with how the country's going to do for the next 4 years. So let's go ahead and just break down exactly what's going to happen very soon. So as we can see, you can already see that the landscape is shaped up the way it is. You have the Democrats at a lead with the safe states. These are the ones that you're 95% sure are going to go either way, right? So of course, Wyoming for the Republican. Even if Trump has a stroke, you'd assume that there's not going to be a Biden landslide. We can also assume California, spearheaded by Gavin Newsom, the great politician that he is, will bolster Joe Biden into a victory no matter what happens. And I would say even if he had a stroke, but I mean, he talks like he already has one. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, now we've got some states that are a little bit closer. And you know what? It's a little embarrassing, but yes, Texas might be an under 10% victory. We've got this one going Republican, though. The state of Florida, which, ideally would be safe red, will definitely go Republican. We've got, of course, we have white people voting Republican. Now we have the off-white, spicy white Cubans voting Republican. So, at that rate, how can you lose? And so we've got Florida going Republican. We've also got the great state of Minnesota, which has nobody really believes that. But the point is that they have this failing franchise called the Minnesota Vikings. They have a horrible voting record. They've had horrible stuff happening to them. They had the George Floyd riots. They've had a myriad of different problems. And so for them to vote Democrat is no surprise to anybody. When you have counties such as Hennepin, you've got the Twin Cities, there's really no reason as to why you would ever assume that these people would vote Republican. And it was somewhat close in 2016, but it has gone further left since then. This is mostly due to the suburban white mom vote. Are we surprised that they're fucking shit up? Anyway, let's make them go Democrat. Now we've got the great state of Ohio. This used to be a battleground state, a couple decades ago. Mitt Romney, no Riz Ron. Yeah, this Romney guy just clearly would not do well in the state of Ohio. And so when Republicans like J.D. Vance or Donald Trump come in, it becomes a way prettier sight. And the state of Ohio still sucks, but you know what? It votes Republican reliably. We're going to give it to the Republican side. Okay, great. Now we've got the great state of New Hampshire. New Hampshire, no, we're skipping you. You're too small. We're going to do instead Georgia, the sweet state of Georgia. Psych. We're going to do North Carolina, NC. What do you've got going on? You've got a basketball team that nobody knows about. Okay, we have the Hornets. You have DeBaby. You've got Mark Robinson, an obese. Like, imagine EDP 445, but like if he were a non-pedophilic politician. He's great, funny, fat, black, bald. Okay, he's going to be governor or senator. I don't remember. I don't follow politics. But we do know that North Carolina will go Republican. If Donald Trump loses the state of North Carolina, he is going to lose the election guaranteed right off the bat, okay? So if you're betting on Trump and you see North Carolina go Democrat, just try to short whatever you've got left, okay? So this has got to go Republican. Now, for the next state that's probably going to go Republican. Now, this is going to be super vital to understand. New Hampshire is just such a fair weather state. It's a very white person state. What do I mean? Well, basically New Hampshire voter-wise is like a girl that you're trying to sleep with. Like, you have to make sure they're not anxious. You got to make sure that they're cozy. All this sort of thing, right? So that's New Hampshire. Oh, but Donald Trump is rough around the edges. We're from New England and we're, whatever. Okay. At that rate, they're probably not going to vote Republican. And it was somewhat close in 2016, but at the same time, Hillary is a very unpopular person, whereas Joe Breezy, Mr. Biden himself, is somewhat of a more chill guy, okay? So I think Joe Biden will actually win the state of New Hampshire pretty confidently as well. Now, for Maine at large, Maine is just going to go all Democrat, okay? It doesn't matter what you want to talk about. You could honestly say that one of these districts will go Republican, and that's fine. It won't be the deal breaker in the election, so don't worry about that necessarily. Okay, so now we've got another important state, and that's going to be Michigan. Michigan is somewhat of a difficult thing because Michigan has so many things going against it. Not only do you have an undead army of welfare recipients around Wayne County, which is primarily Detroit. We've got other places that are complete crapshoots like Flint, Michigan. These people can't even get their water straight. And then you've got other places that are just irrelevant. You have Macomb County, Oakland County, places, these townships that ought to be Republican. They're mostly white, suburban, middle class. You would think, okay, well, Duh. No, these people are somewhat of like a swing vote, and that's somewhat depressing. So, with that being said, these people are just not very prone to be pro Trump. Now, there's like, intermixed and all that. There's like the Fago, ICP, white trash. Those people would vote Trump, but not enough of them apparently. So, I'm going to give Joe Biden the win in the state of Michigan, which is too bad because Trump got really close to winning it. In 2020, had things gone differently, you could see how he would have won it. But 24, it's not looking hot. Okay, sorry, the mitt stays blue. Now we've got the next state, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is another state that I think Donald Trump will win. And this is primarily because of the fact that he's going to be energized in such a way to where Joe Biden's home state advantage won't factor in at all. And what I mean is, like, if Joe Biden's running a campaign that is not grassroots, it's not going to be mobilized at all in person, then the home state advantage doesn't really exist. What's better? When people were voting for Joe Biden just because he's from Pennsylvania, allegedly, even though he spends his entire life after college in Delaware, is ostensibly the fact that, oh, well, he's kind of chill and he's an old white guy. But then, I mean, he's president and he sucks. And so that illusion is going out the window. And a lot of these people in Pennsylvania are really low IQ. I mean, these are your coal workers. These are these like uneducated, the swine. I'm exaggerating, but the point is that these people are evidently just not the smartest. And so when they're like, oh, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden and he totally won't ban fracking, and then he actually does ban a lot of that, then they're like, oh, shit, I should have voted for Trump. So there you go. So white people that are dumb enough to vote for Biden are probably going to go back to daddy, back on the plantation where you belong. And the Mayo monkeys will rise up and they will vote for Trump in Pennsylvania. Now we've got the great state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin, which is known for Culver's, which is known for cheese curds, which is known for having fat political prediction YouTubers live there. No shade, I love you. No, look, the point is that we've got some real American patriots in Wisconsin, and these people will vote Republican. We have something called the WOW counties. The WOW counties, which is like, we don't even care what the name is, but it's an acronym for these swing counties, these counties that ought to predict where the state goes. The predictors so far point to the Republicans winning, of course. And if they don't, then believe me. Anyway, the point is that you've got places that are suburban that aren't trending that Democrat as compared to other places like Fulton County. And that's a miracle, which means that if you have the suburbs not cucking the content like they've evidently have been for the last 15 years since McCain, then we're going to have a Republican resurgence in Wisconsin as compared to 2020. So I'm pretty confident Donald Trump wins the state. And if he doesn't win Wisconsin, then he's pretty much screwed, by the way. That's another reason to short your Trump coin if that ever does happen. Another state I think Donald Trump will win is going to be Georgia. And the reason why I say this is because the fair weather people that went from Trump 2016 to Biden 2020, these people are going to go back to Trump because Biden sucks. So again, the fair weather voters that said, okay, Trump has a good economy, but Joe Biden can keep the economy up, plus won't be cringe on Twitter, well, that's gone because Trump isn't tweeting right now. And secondly, Joe Biden actively is tanking the economy, in which case, what's to sell for Joe Biden? More of the same? What's the same? It's nothing. Okay, so then these suburban people are not going to vote more Democrat. Why in the hell would they do that? And you might say, well, these people are socially liberal. But what is the new thing that they're arguing about on social liberal causes? Nothing. Abortion. That blew over 2 years ago. We're done with the abortion thing. That's done. Okay, now what? Nothing. What? Gay stuff? Trans stuff? That's not going to matter. What else are they going to argue from the leftist point of view that'll make the suburban white people vote Democrat? It just doesn't exist. So we're going to have GOP-controlled Georgia, of course. We've also got the state of Nevada, which actually is trending Republican. A lot of the indicators are pointing towards it because they're very greedy. In fact, from what I know, their solving of murder cases is so high because they have such a good, diligent police force, because they're greedy, because they want tourism, which means low murders incentivize tourism, which means that they're dependent on the economy, which means that these predominantly working class sectors, such as like the guilds that work together in unison in these unions, these blue collar workers that are like cooks and friars and whatever, these people that would normally vote Democrat are actually Republican because they're very much a fair weather economic contingency. And so these voters that you would typically see vote for Bernie Sanders in the primary but vote for Trump are going to come out in mass for the Republican Party in 2024, believe it or not. And so with that being said, you also have the undercurrents of the suburbs not being as hostile to Donald Trump as well. I mean, you have to picture that your average Nevadan is like the middle class version of Dana White, and Dana White is a Trump guy. So just by that characterization, you know that Nevada is going Republican. Whoops. We're going to paint the town right over here. Okay, so now that you've got Vegas is red, we've got the last and most important state. Obviously, you've got me here. It's going to be Arizona. Arizona, which might be a deciding vote in this election. Here, we need to break it down. Okay, so Arizona was really close. Arizona was really close 2020. In 2016, it was abnormally also pretty Democrat. Now, what's changing about the state is that it's getting more Mexican, of course, which I don't have the biggest problem with because I'm me. But at the same time, we also have to realize that these people do vote Democrat in predominant masses. That being said, this is being somewhat assuaged by the fact that obviously as time goes on, the people that are here are going to assimilate into the culture, which makes them more Republican inherent, makes them more white adjacent, you could say, which means that these Mexicans, similar to the Cubans but in a weaker extent, are going to become more Republican. So to whatever extent demographically Latinos are voting Democrat, that gets assuaged by them also converting sides. So at that point, we can't really say the demographic change, in 4 years is going to necessitate a big difference. Plus, most of the immigration that we're seeing in the border that is not being protected right now by Joe Biden, by the way, which will help in Arizona for the Republican Party, mind you, these are mostly illegal aliens, so they're not going to vote at all. In which case, plus also consider that Latino turnout, even for the citizens, is way lower than the white turnout. Blacks and whites vote way more than Latinos. If that's the case, then obviously the Latino vote doesn't even matter too much, so don't sweat it. My wet back is dry in regards to concern for Arizona. Plus, the suburbs, again, the curb. I mean, we're reaching when Donald Trump was talking about the virus from a couple years ago, he was talking about rounding a corner or whatever. I think this is exactly what's going on with the Latino vote, with the suburban vote. It can only get so bad, right? It can only get so Democrat. I think at some point it's going to fix itself. So with that being said, the Republicans and the fair weather McCain people are going to have to come to the plantation and say, Donald Trump, the ring, okay, that is kissing the ring for Donald Trump, because the state of Arizona will vote for Donald Trump. In Arizona, we've got a victory secured. We have 297 electoral votes to 241. Donald Trump wins. No duh, no shit. I give Donald Trump a 2 in 3 chance of winning the presidency. It would be like a 90% if it weren't for obviously the way you count the votes or whatever. I mean, we know what, it's a little sus. We can't lie. We'll see y'all in the next video. Adios.